I can't be complacent at all. So it's a lot, but I feel like that's the stage that we're in, this kind of massive growth, and you've got to pay attention to how you're growing at all times. Otherwise it can get out of control and you can burst and you can get to the point where you can't sustain it.
Hello, welcome to the Make Haste Slowly podcast. I'm Michael Vaclav.
I am Allison Vaclav, and we are the founders of Meadow Roasting. But we are here today on the first episode of the Make Haste Slowly podcast.
Yeah, so today is really fun. It's a good friend of mine, or of ours, for the last, we met in 2003 or 4, somewhere in that area, so almost 20 years, and owner of K-Tonic, and it's just been a really good friend and supporter of ours for so long, and we'd love to hear his most memorable moment at Meadow or with a cup of coffee. What do you think, Greg?
What's going on? I'm happy to see you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be part of this, memorable moment at Meadow. I have to, considering that there's a time limit on this podcast, because I have a lot to say about Cafe Meadow and my time at your Westland location. It was when that opened, and as I've told the story, I've known Michael since his JP's Java days, where Cafe Meadow, the inception of that was started. It was very exciting to be able to go to a space that Westland created. And it really introduced coffee culture to a lot of people. And I was lucky to be part of that, where I would go there. I know baristas, I know your other regulars, all kind of centered around coffee. And it's a really beautiful thing to create a culture around that. And I think that's, you've been part of what's, what we call coffee culture, but it's just much more than that. It's community. And, I felt like Cafe Meadow and that Westland location in particular, where you started, really created that. And I couldn't wait to, go there. And sometimes I'd be there twice a day. And I was rather there a lot. And I would come in actually from San Antonio initially because I commuted from San Antonio to Austin. And so I'd specifically go there, start my day, go back to the office, and I'd be like, in the middle of the day, I'm like, I think I need something more. And I go back. And so it really was very inviting, warm, and just, I have nothing but fond memories of what you guys created at Westland and in the coffee scene. So thank you. And I could talk about it all day long, but I won't, because
yeah.
Multiple time a day coffee drinkers are our favorite customers. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's been kind of fun. Like, you and I have been able to kind of grow, also just seeing each other with our families and businesses and all that kind of stuff. So maybe you could tell some of our listeners something about yourself and maybe some history. And
sure. So my history, to be honest, I've been in Texas since I was 2. Started out in Houston in East Texas, and then went to Trinity University in San Antonio. Met my wife there. Lived there for 18 years, and we started our family. We had 2 children there, Eden and Meadow, and then had our 3rd child, Ezra, in Austin. We've been in Austin almost 16 years. It'll be 16 years in August. I'm just probably going to get out of. I say get out of the way. I don't want this to dominate the podcast, but I family is pretty much everything to me. What motivates me is what I can do to, protect my family, have them grow and thrive. And we certainly were dealt a huge blow August 12th of last year when we lost our youngest daughter to suicide, Meadow. And that has been very difficult to navigate, as you can imagine. But it is one of these things that if you allow yourself to, you can become stronger. I'm fundamentally a different person as a result of that, as is my wife, Lulu, who's been hit hardest with this as a mother. And our family has changed a lot, but we're stronger in a lot of ways dealing with this. And so I bring this out kind of in the front just because this is really a very dominating aspect of my life, and it's part of my life. It will always be part of my life, but it's not ever a matter of moving past anything, but it's moving forward, being able to live with integrating pain into your life in a way that where you can still enjoy life. My family can still continue to thrive, and not just survive. So, that's really where I'm at with everything. I came to Austin originally because I was still am working for my father at a company called the Goodman Corporation, really great company he started in 1980 that was based his company on really getting grant funding from federal and state sources for all kinds of mass transit projects. And that company's grown quite a bit. I have a lot of experience with grant management and grant pursuit, and as well as construction management for transit facilities and all kinds of other project management involved there. We opened up an office in Austin in, I think it was 2003. It might have been 2004, 2003. And so I was, commuting back and forth from San Antonio. At some point, it was like Lou and I were like, well, let's just, let's look for a house and move there, which we did. Doing this work, it really wasn't my passion. My father started this business, and this is, not something that I started, but I was happy to help him and look out for him, really, is why I was involved in the business. But, I have a brain and I could do things. And so it was work. Meanwhile, I've been an active musician since I was 13, playing in bands and touring around and stuff. And that was always been a passion of mine. But another passion of mine, besides coffee, was I was making kombucha from like 2008 in my house, to the chagrin of my wife. I had like buckets of, these fermenter buckets in our kitchen. I cleared out like some of the upper cabinets we had so I could fit them in there. And, I would brew kombucha and share it with people. And this has been a while now since I was doing that. And at some point I felt like there was a niche that I had with kombucha that had less sugar than normal kombucha. My wife and I were getting very health conscious, and we're always looking at labels. And I started looking at kombucha labels. I'm like, there's no reason why a functional, healthy beverage should have so much sugar in it. So, I got, and then at around the time of about, I think it was 2013 or so, I met my brother-in-law, Brian Schmitz, who's my partner, and he had a background in beer brewing, which, I wasn't, and he was more technical, had more of an engineering mind. And I was more of the creative type. And I had, these recipes going, and I'm like, well, hey, can we apply beer brewing techniques to kombucha to add carbonation and kind of talk about early on about the manufacturing process, even though we were doing this all by hand. And he was like, sure. So we got together and formed K-Tonic in November of 2014. So we're coming pretty close to a 10-year mark. Wow. And we've been growing pretty substantially. We're about to be on. So I guess now, without giving you the whole progression, we were, I was selling it out of my car, like going different places. Michael was a hard sell, by the way, Allison. So Michael was not like Michael said, I'm just going to pass this along to Patrick, Patrick Pierce, and you just, let's put a cushion between our friendship, and which I totally appreciated, totally appreciated. And
well,
respect.
and by now that health products are not Michael's number one consumer item, right? Not his genre, but he does know quality.
Say that.
He does know quality, and we landed there in the end, and it is the absolute best. It's the absolute best kombucha on the market. I'm not even lying. It's not because I like you. It is actually the best.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and that endorsement. I'm gonna be calling back for a testimonial, and we'll
And actually, this used to be on the label, and it's not anymore. But when we first started carrying your bottles, you had the iron content, and there was an insane amount of iron in your kombucha. And I'm assuming that's still true. It's just not on the label anymore. But I was probably just had a baby or something and was desperate for iron, and I discovered that on the label. So I was just downing them just for the iron content, which was amazing.
Well, we used a ton. It hasn't changed per se, but we used a ton of dry botanicals that have a lot of naturally occurring iron. I think I want to say hibiscus was one, maybe the ginger. I can't remember what it was that had that, but I remember seeing that too. And I remember getting other comments about, why is your nutritional panel like slimline? It's because the FDA allows us to do that. And frankly, we wanted more space on the label for some other things. And as a beverage, to be quite honest, I mean, there's a lot of functional aspects of the beverage, like the probiotics that are in there and antioxidants that you don't put on labels typically.
Right.
So, it doesn't typically need to have a full breakout. So therefore we kind of fell under that simplified label rule. But, I mean, we got in with, Cafe Medici is one of our early customers. Central Market in Texas was probably our biggest at the time. And then you flash forward to today, and we're going to be on Southern California shelves, and actually this week.
Yay.
So we finally kind of made our way to West Coast, and we're in, I think, 7 states at this point. And I was doing this in my kitchen in half-gallon ball jars, and now I'm dealing with freight to California, and
wow.
So it's been an incredible journey. It's also been very arduous. Growing a CPG brand is it's not for the faint of heart, and you have to really be in it to win it. And I've got friends of mine who are mentors, including you, Michael. It's you just don't give up. You have to keep pressing forward, and that's what we have been doing. So, and it's hard for me to celebrate anything because I just don't feel like there's anything to celebrate. I'm not there yet, and when will I get there? I have no ideas. But I'm very pleased with how we've grown, and I'm excited about the future that's to come.
Yeah, I think that's really hard for just business owners in general to celebrate, because it's not that all of a sudden you arrived somewhere. It's sort of you're on to the next thing. By the time somebody sees a product, you're already on to something else. And so I think it's hard to celebrate along the way. And but I feel like I've gotten to celebrate with you along the way. At least I've been oh, that's so awesome. Like you said, Costco. And I was just like, man, that's a big deal. And, when y'all open your new factory, I got to go out and see y'all's new warehouse space.
I remember.
And it's
that was neat.
So there's all these little things along the line I think are just, as business owners, you kind of forget. But I remember being at that ribbon cutting ceremony, and that was really cool. I think it was ribbon cutting ceremony, but
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
In Hutto. Yeah, that was very special.
And I wonder, 10 years ago, were you imagining having this brand that was about 10 years from now, we'll be on the East Coast? Was that part of your vision, or were you just let's throw some shit on the wall, see what sticks?
There's a little bit of both going on. So when we developed our branding, before we even incorporated, I was very clear with who we were working with. I said, I want this to stand up on shelves against any name brand kombucha at the time. And I had every intent on growing out of this region. How we were going to do that, there's no way to predict how that was going to happen. And in fact, if someone told me how this was going to happen in the manner it was going to happen, I'd be like, should I be doing this? Because it's been bonkers. I'm not, part of it, Michael's like, when I talk to you about all this stuff, I mean, I need to share with close friends about, hey, we got into Costco, hey, we're in 145 stores HEB, hey, we're this, hey, we're that, because I need to tell somebody. And I also, it's also like, if there's people that I trust to tell me, say, hey, you need to be careful with this and that and the other, which I get, from different folks. But I don't like, this is the whole reason why I don't celebrate things is it's not only because I always want to have a drive to move forward. Like I am, not there yet, wherever there is, but it's also like, I almost don't want to jinx anything because, I don't, it's just this weird feeling that I've got. And I want to be able to be satisfied with certain aspects of how we've grown and be able to take a win here and there. I mean, at least that's something through like therapy I've learned that I need to, embrace a little bit more. But I also am this kind of serial like entrepreneur where it's like striving for perfection that you never achieve. And we've had some great things happen. We've had some not so awesome things happen, but like overall, it's been a really amazing journey. And I plan on continuing to grow and build the company and get us in a position where I can at least feel more comfortable than where I'm at, because it's not comfortable at all. It's very like, what's my next move? Where am I going from here? I can't be complacent at all. So it's a lot. But I feel like that's the stage that we're in, this kind of massive growth, and you've got to pay attention to how you're growing at all times. Otherwise it can get out of control and you can burst and you can get to the point where you can't sustain it.
Sure.
So how do you manage all that as far as like, going through those different setbacks and challenges, both, personally and business wise? It's because it's not like it's an easy cut line where your personal life and your business life and your music life all kind of like, how do you manage that?
I'm at the gym 4 to 5 days a week. I think that really, it's great. It manages stress I mean, it's for mental clarity and acuity. It's amazing. I could not sustain all this without having a high level of fitness that I have. I try to make sure that my diet is on point, which but certainly that struggles with, because it's so, when you get stressed out, what do you want to do? It's like, I'm going to eat this, cheeseburger that's an easy access and delicious. But I think that beyond that, it's perspective. I'm very lucky because I have learned a lot from my father, who went through all of these same trials with growing his business. I mean, he's told me some stories too. And he helps me keep very level and very centered. And so does, my wife, Lulu, and stuff. It's perspective, really. Perspective on what's important and what to focus on and what not to focus on. I still am working on this aspect of myself, where I am trying not to sweat the small stuff or even the not so small stuff, because there's certain points in time, like, it's like losing sleep over this is my biggest battle. Is I am compelled to get up at 3-5 in the morning going, okay, how are you going to help this situation? How are you going to, make things better? And it's very tough because I need sleep too. At some point I got to sleep with all this stuff going on. I've got to be able to maintain that level of sleep. So it's a balancing act. It's about stress management. And I think that, the more that I focus in on me, on making sure that I have downtime and be able to, take care of myself, the better it is going to be for everybody. And I believe me when I say it's the least selfish thing that I can do, because what is right on it? I've got my family, I've got my business, I've got the people I employ with their families, and my loved ones. So it may sound like a selfish move, but doing all this stuff, but it's really not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greg, I want to thank you. You opened up this conversation by sharing about Meadow, and I really appreciate you being vulnerable. I really respect the ways that you have shared about her and about your family's experience with the community, because you guys are excellent parents, and I really think most of us can't fathom how a family survives losing a child. But something you said caught my attention. You said we've learning to integrate pain. And I wonder if you could share more with us about that. Like, how have you guys continued to live, and you're able to keep doing your business? And yeah, I'm just curious, like, how have y'all done this?
Well, first of all, thank you, Allison, for saying those things. So when a tragedy at the level that has hit my family hits a family, you have two choices. And you're well within your right. And I've said this many times, to hide away and deal with it on your own, or be private and not open yourselves up to receiving support and love, but rather be inward and deal with your pain on your own, because the pain is overwhelming, and it's overwhelming, period. And I've learned that there's a distinction between pain and suffering.
Mm.
And pain is what will never go away with respect to the loss of our daughter. Suffering is what working on reducing for everybody in my family, including myself, but especially Lulu, my wife, who, again, as a mother, I don't understand. I do as a father. The two of us are probably in the, we understand each other the most. But she gave birth to Meadow. She carried Meadow, and that connection is something that it's something you don't just have. It's a wonderful thing, and they also share a birth date. They share a birth date, and that's even very interestingly enough. I remember the day that we were going to the hospital, and Lily was like, "Please don't, please, little baby, stay in for a little longer," because they wanted to have something. She thought back then having just having a distinct day for would be better but that didn't happen. And then she said it was the most beautiful birthday gift she's ever got. So that's going to be and that's June 21st. So
Wow.
it's kind of, the clock is ticking to this. We've got this year first that we're dealing with, and that's the first big one. So two choices. You could either be inward and choose to be private, or you can choose to receive love and support and be open about what happens, particularly the fact that Meadow died by suicide. Now, Lulu set the tone for this. So within 24 hours of Meadow's death, Lulu told me, she's like, "I do not want to hide. I want to be open. I want to receive help, love, and support. I want to be open about what happened." And if she hadn't told me those things, I feel like as a person, I'd want to be, but I wouldn't more open. But I would, if she told me the first scenario, things would be very different on how we approach things. But she wasn't, and it was the absolute best decision that was made that she initiated. And there's a lot of reasons why I want to be open about this, and we're very, very fortunate to have tremendous love and support from our community. I mean, tremendous. My kids were raised Jewish. I'm Jewish, and the Jewish community in particular were just incredible. But friends, family, of course, all been amazing. And my mission is, and I say mission, like my big battle is like, I want to take me out of the equation on on the manner in which I want to help others, because this is nothing about this is about me. The reason why we're so open about the loss of our daughter and how she died is because if we can do anything to help anybody else avoid the situation, hopefully, or if they get, God forbid, if they're in the situation, they lose a child, how to be able to navigate it the way that I feel like we've done it, which I feel like we're doing the best we can. And I feel strongly it's the best way to go. I want to be there for people. And, I will also mention that I'm putting together a big benefit concert for 2 organizations that are, very centered around mental health, that I'm planning for August 24th. I haven't released those details yet, but that's one way, to help. The other way is I'm here for any family who is dealing with, child with mental illness, or has come on the other side of that with us. It could just be talking, but I think talking about what happened, trying to dispel the stigma behind suicide, which has a stigma to it, I think is the best thing we could do. And it does honestly help us too, because knowing that, Meadow's death, while something that was really unavoidable considering her mental health situation, and it could be converted to things that are good and helpful to others. Maybe we could save some children and some families from falling fate.
Yeah. I just admire the courage and commitment that you both have to sharing the message of your experience, and the strength that you guys are finding along the way, because it is an epidemic. Like teenage, I'm tender. I'm tender about it, because
you have a beautiful family, and and I'm there for you guys if you ever need me. I check in with Michael about your kids, and I think, and it's not like it is an epidemic. Mental health with teens is an epidemic. Unfortunately, Meadow was a rare case. She likely had undiagnosed bipolar. She was syndrome. She was undiagnosed bipolar, which you can't really diagnose as a child. But she also, and I just to tell you about Meadow, very special. Everyone thinks their kid is special, and we all, every time I have a conversation with parents who don't have kids, who many, and and that's great. Whatever, it's like when we have this conversation, it's the funny thing comes up about kids, and that they're special because they're your kids or whatever. And it's like, yes, but Meadow in particular, from very early age, was this sparky, very defiant little girl, and I loved what what she embodied from a very early age. You know, it was really her way or the highway. Very stubborn. She, you know, kind of, you know, ran the meeting, so to speak, because that's what we've always said. So she, you know, with her friends, she kind of like said, okay, this is what we're going to do. You know, so she always had that attitude. And, you know, I think that there probably was to her detriment when we were dealing with her mental health, only because she didn't feel like, unless she connected with her therapist, which it was very difficult for her to connect with a therapist after she went through the Delta programs. When she went through all that, because she was, you know, kind of not happy about going through the programs that she needed to, and she really just wanted to be left to her own devices, which of course, as parents, we were not going to, you know, do. She just had a hard time connecting with therapists, and you know, if she wasn't going to do that, she wasn't going to really talk about what was going on or even begin to explore that, which is, it's not even easy to, you know, it's not like she could articulate that. She had a switch that, you know, went on that would flip when she, and mostly in the night, in the evening, to not get into those details. I mean, being stubborn has two sides of it, but like in this case, it made it difficult to try to treat her and get down to treatment. And we probably just needed more time with her, but it was pretty, you know, I mean, this was the path that she chose, and there was, you know, nothing that we could do to really stop it, but we did everything good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but she is very special, and she's always part of our family.
Yeah,
always.
absolutely. Yeah, the year of firsts without her, that sounds grueling. That sounds grueling.
Holidays are tough, I can tell you that.
What kind of, if you don't mind, I just feel like being able to talk about grief feels like a rare opportunity, because I feel like just in general in our culture, we don't do it well. So I'm curious if you could share, like, what kind of support has been helpful? You said it sounds like you guys made a deliberate choice to open yourselves to receiving support from your community. I'm curious what that actually looked like and what you may need going forward.
We so beyond individual therapy, which we all have, we all have great therapists, and we have a family therapist as well. Just, I mean, it's simple. Like, friends, not only on the very base level, there's all kinds of people checking in on us on a regular basis, just checking in on you. How are you doing? Thinking about you, you know. Beyond that base level, you know, this is where I'm really grateful for, like, Lulu's network. I mean, she goes on walks with different people in the neighborhood, and she's asked a lot about, you know, spending time doing that. She meets up with people, you know, just spending time with other people where they want to spend time. And it's not even about like focusing on what happened and talking about every aspect of that. It's really just, you know, getting that time to be able to feel like you know, you're a human, not constantly burdened by this, which you are. But, you know, it's, again, this is how we learn to live with the pain, and learning to live with the pain is resuming our normal lives, and people checking up on us and making sure that we're okay and we have our needs being met, I think, is part of that. I have the same, you know, network of friends too. I think beyond that, I involving my family in different activities, I think is great. You know, making sure that our kids are, you know, taken care of and well occupied, and, you know, not just, you know, completely immersing themselves in grief. I think by this time, you know, the kids they're learning to live with this just as we are, and they spend a lot of time with their friends. So it's just spending time with others, because, you know, I've said this also before, is that the one thing that's unshaken, and in fact, it's strengthened, is my love for humanity and what humans can do when there's a need out there, and how coming together can really help a family like ours. And we've been well supported, and you have to know how to ask. You have to, if not asking, you have to know how to be open, to doing that. So, and that's hard. It's not easy to take that step. Another thing very in particular, which is kind of what we want to do, is we got to talk to a couple of families who have experienced a similar loss in a similar manner. And by doing that, we got, we were able to talk about each other's stories. And we, in the case of one individual who lost their son, and I think he was in his early 20s. This was 6 or 7 years ago. So like we kind of wanted to see how he was doing, which he was, coping as well as you can expect.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's like, I want people to understand that I think if you get out of me that I'm okay, that's probably the best you're going to get for the foreseeable future, because I'm never going to be great. I'm never going to be great. We're all going to be okay. We're all going to be able to enjoy life and be able to live our lives and be able to, which is what everybody should have that opportunity to do. But yeah, we're sometimes not okay. And I suspect that's going to be the rest of our lives as well. You don't lose a piece of you like this, like we've done, without feeling those things. You're never going to be whole again. There's nothing that's going to fill that.
Yeah.
But what makes it easier and helps you through it is the love and support that you get from family and friends. And we've been getting that, and we're very, very grateful to everybody.
Wow.
Very.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate it. I feel like I hear such wisdom and just gritty reality, and I just really value that. And it's vulnerable to share your pain and to share how you're living through it. And also, I think it's interesting paired with like the first half of the conversation, we're talking about K-Tonic, and it's in the season of growth, and it's also very vulnerable to celebrate. So I'm just really appreciative that you're able to be here and let us into this part of your life with such vulnerability.
Also, just the complexities of you're a father, you're a business owner, you're a son, you're a husband. It's like there's all these sort of things you're holding at the same time, and I don't know. I've gotten to see you kind of walk in all those roles, and just I have a lot of respect for you, and just seeing your family this last year too, and I don't know. It's just been even in such a sad space. It's also been really beautiful to see, even in that sort of suffering or pain. It's like, so I don't know. I'm just thankful that you, I don't know, allowed me to be a part of this with you too. So
I'm equally thankful to you both.
Wow, that's pretty heavy.
That's
so good.
Oh, this is like authentic. This is what we love. This is why we did Medici, because people's stories really matter. People's lives matter. People's families matter. And getting to see a little bit beyond the, hey, how you doing? How's your week? Into the real depth and texture of people's actual lives is such a gift. It's such a gift. So Thank you for being our first guest, Greg.
Definitely.
Like,
I'm
this
thrilled. You asked
so
me.
good
I'm
to
thrilled
get
that you asked
to
me.
have a long seasoned friend. I mean, wow, I can't believe it's been 20 years. And I feel
Yeah.
like even people who even know what JP's Java is are like rare unicorns now.
I get it's so funny because I also have to mention this little plug. I co-own. Everyone was shocked I didn't go into coffee or whatever. Everybody was, and instead I started a kombucha company. But I didn't want that at the time. I was just like, well, leave it to people like Michael and the other people that I have respect for in the space. But I did. I partnered with my buddy Josh Whitehead, who worked for K-Tonic for a couple of years, and that whole, without getting into that story, I made a commitment to him to get him back into coffee while getting me into coffee at the same time. And so we opened up a little coffee cart kiosk thing that is currently at Mantra Yoga at the retreat. It's called Flora Coffee, which Flora as a name kind of pays homage to fermentation, So we opened that up, and I can't even tell you what an absolute joy it is to go every morning. This is 3 minutes down the road from where I live off of Anderson Lane. And so like I'll go there like every morning and Josh is there, and it's a beautiful little space, very kind of tropical looking. It just has been incredible. So, it's a very bright light in my life, with respect to everything else that's going on. I have many, bright lights in my life. And it's just nice to go do that, and it's fun. So, yeah, I'm not even sure why I brought it up, other than the fact that it is part of what, part of me.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things where I'm looking forward to helping Josh cultivate it, and I certainly have learned a lot of that from you, Michael, and you, Allison, with respect to Cafe Medici. So it's interesting. I've kind of gotten carved out a little space in Northwest Austin, doing this.
Yeah, we'll be editing out everything related to other coffee businesses, so don't worry. Kidding. We love you. We're so excited. I'm actually up in
North.
Yeah, we're like, I'm actually up in Northwest Austin a lot these days, so I will go check it out.
You should. I won't.
Yeah, I will. And also, please keep us updated on this secretive, awesome fundraiser you have coming up. That sounds exciting.
It'll be yeah. I hope it'll be maybe draw well, and we'll raise money for two very important organizations. So yes, I will certainly let you know.
Let us know.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Babe, do we have one final question?
We do. This can be philosophical. It could be whatever. It could be a place practical, a place you like, something about Austin. But just leave us with a recommendation. What's something that you would recommend?
I love how absolutely open-ended that is.
It's
that's the point. We're going to ask all of our guests. That's our final question for all of our guests. Give us a recommendation.
Okay. This is at the risk of being boring, because, I'm sure that there'll be some folks saying, hey, what type of food recommendation? This is really, I think that the thing out of this is, at least this is what I had thought about before getting on here, is I highly recommend that people that, there's tons of people out in the world that work very hard, and they work, very hard for their families, for themselves, for whatever reason. But you can't lose sight of who you are in the process of doing that. And so my recommendation is a very much cliched stop and smell the roses, like do some things for yourself. You got to, and that is something that's been very key to my, survival and not only survival, but being able to grow honestly as a person too, because that's another thing. It's like you never stop learning or growing or bettering yourself as a human being. But part of what will enable that is you got to be able to have the time to reflect on what's going on in your life, because if you're constantly in the middle of the myopic zone of work, or it's just when you're in it and you're working hard, you don't see anything else. You've got to make sure that you're building in time for yourself, whether it's a hobby, whether it's just sitting down with a cup of coffee at Cafe Medici Springdale
or Flora,
a little spot in the corner. It doesn't matter what it is. It is the me time that you got to get. And that is, again, as I said before, that's not, if you have a family and you have loved ones and you've got employees and people that, depend on you, that are part of your network, that's not entirely selfish pursuit. It is selfish by definition, of course, because you are trying to take care of yourself. But you cannot take care of others if you do not take care of yourself. Yeah. If you're so busy trying to hold up the world and you aren't getting the time you need to be able to sit back, appreciate things that you've done, examine things that you have yet to do, look towards the future, but also make sure your head is in the present, all those things. If you don't do that, then you're going to miss something. And most of all, you're going to miss what it's like to be human on this planet, alive, which I think we all should appreciate. And again, with everything that's happened to me, to us, to my family, the fact that I can appreciate life even more now should say something. It should say something. It should be a very strong statement to a lot of people that you can move forward from this, but move forward better.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg.
Oof.
Not a lighthearted conversation.
Good stuff.
But I love it. It's so good. Yeah.
If you invite me back to talk about, like, I don't know, salsa, either dancing or playing, or the actual, like, I make some salsa, which
there it is.
Salsa. It's good. In fact, I think a whole episode on those three things, like,
a 3-part salsa conversation.
I love it.
All right.
Thanks so much, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
It's so good to connect today. Appreciate it.
And much love to you both. Thank you very much.
And also, thank you guys for listening and the Make Case Solo podcast. And listen up for our next one.
Cheers.
Cheers. See you guys.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.